Hey guys, it's Quana back again with another Handmaid's Tale review. Hope you guys are doing awesome. Just got finished watching season 5, episode 8, entitled Motherland. This was such an intriguing episode. I really love it when the show dives into the politics behind what makes Gilead tick and also the politics behind potentially taking Gilead down. And where so many of the episodes have been about survival, I think we're moving slowly to the strategy of it all. How can June and the crew start to take Gilead down? And we're getting into that a little bit with this episode. One of my favorites of the season. I know I said that about episode 7 and 6, but it really was. But before we get started with my full recap and review and just thoughts about the episode and where I think things are going, please do me a favor and click the subscribe button down below. It really means so much to me when I see that you guys are joining in on the conversation, when I see that you guys are wanting to join me over here in my little corner of the earth where I can connect with people who also love The Handmaid's Tale and are up to date with The Handmaid's Tale. So please let me know about your theories down in the comments and let's interact and let's connect, okay? All right, so let's talk a little bit about this episode. And guys, it was serious. I watched it twice and I have notes. So we're going to just dive right on in where the episode starts, as most of the episodes, if not all of the episodes of the season, have started with June having a flashback about Hannah. Hannah has been June's North Star for much of the show, for most of her time in Gilead, but specifically this season. In every episode, we've seen some type of Hannah flashback, and it begins this way with her and Hannah making chocolate chip pancakes, a very touching scene with her, with little Hannah, and then she kind of comes out of it and she's standing in the kitchen back in Canada making stir fry with Moira, Luke, and Rita in the background. And it's been about a month since she was rescued from no man's land by Serena, but then also in turn saved Serena and Noah, and also about a month since Luke called the authorities on Serena and had baby Noah taken away. In the background of this episode is the Canadian citizens who are protesting the continued stay of these Gilead refugees and what they feel as though it's doing to their communities and to their economy. And things are getting really bad, and the tension is wassa. You know that top sound. Serena's been contacting June for help, and Moira and Luke are talking about it, and they just can't understand what Serena thinks she's going to get from June. You know, they really aren't understanding the connection and the weird dichotomy and strangeness of it all, with Serena being both perpetrator and victim of Gilead as being another woman, and June being a victim of Gilead, and the ways in which they have had to lean on each other, connect with each other, and oftentimes save each other. I mean, let's not forget that, yes, Serena is the orchestrator of much of this, right? But once baby Nicole was in the world, she also helped to rescue baby Nicole and help June get baby Nicole out of Gilead. And so there have been certainly times where Serena has assisted and aided or turned a blind eye to June, and likewise June has just rescued her and saved her baby. Luke in this episode was infuriating. He just at no point in time could understand. And it's not even about having compassion for Serena, because I don't think that I have nearly as much compassion for Serena as June does, but I understand why June would feel the way that she does. And for someone in her predicament who's been through what she's been through, Luke just is not having an empathetic bone in his body. He doesn't understand it. He gives her this look where when she tells him that, you know, she did this for Serena's baby, who was innocent in all of this, not necessarily for Serena. And he gives her this look like, I would have left that baby and Serena in the woods to die. Not even a second thought about it. Lawrence is pitching his whole idea of New Bethlehem. It's kind of interesting because it seems like it's going through, but one of the commanders at first is like, not on board, and then remembers what Lawrence and Nick have done to Putnam, probably knows that these two gentlemen have some dirt on him, and he decides to zip his lips about it, as he should. But the problem that I have with this scene, and I'm pretty sure that this is intentional and meant to sow doubt in our minds, is that it really shows that Lawrence and Nick have way more power than they're letting on. And I don't know if it is just self-doubt in their power and abilities, or if it is intentional, but there certainly seems to be more of a power dynamic that they have, that they possess. But he's getting New Bethlehem off the ground, which means he needs to go to Canada to get to get the aid of the Canadian government, and he really wants June to come and relocate. He wants to get refugees from Canada into New Bethlehem, and he's really trying to fix all of the ills that he did in creating the infrastructure of Gilead. So he comes to Canada to pitch the idea to June, and all he has to say is the word Hannah, and June is like, I think I may have to take you up on that offer. And I've been saying it since every episode. The minute that we got episode 1 and they decided to make Emily return to Gilead, to kind of help with Mayday and things of that nature, at that moment that they decided that that was the choice that they were going to make, we were always going to be on this trajectory toward June returning to Gilead to save Hannah. And I think greater than that, also to help bring down Gilead. Luke is immediately like, nope, not going to do it, despite how dire the situation is. And June really challenges him on it. It's like, well, what should we do? Should we just continue to wait for America to help save our child? I mean, she's been in here for 7 years, and she's on a very swift trajectory toward being some old man's wife and having to be raped because she's only 12 years old. So we don't have a lot of time to like lollygag and say, well, let's just see what happens. This is the difference between Luke and June. Luke is very much a by the book, let's get the ordinances, let's do things the right way. But at the end of all, this is war, and you need both. You need someone, like his way kind of worked a little bit, it helped a little bit, but you need someone like June who makes things happen. And again, I love Luke. I'm always team Luke over team Nick. Although I like Nick, I've always been team Luke. But it just was infuriating how he was this episode. I could not stand it. Let me know down below in the comments if you felt my pain. They get into this debate about Lawrence, and June reminds him of all of the good things that Lawrence did. I feel like that was a moment for us, the audience, to remember all of the positive things, because as Lawrence continues to be kind of super shady, it's like, is he just being an international super spy, or is this a real kind of turnabout? Because the way in which Lawrence talks, sometimes you don't know, like he really could be plotting some things that are working against the women or that are not helpful, and you really just kind of don't know. And then we have Serena, who is stuck in the detention center and visited by like 3 ghosts of her past. She's visited by Mrs. Wheeler, Lawrence, and finally June. She is pumping breast milk for the baby, which she's doing it in public. She's not doing it in a good space. You can kind of see that her supply is not very strong. I don't know how many times a day Miss Wheeler is going by and collecting it, but she's literally just getting the 2 jars of milk that she had on her in that moment. And she finds out that the Wheelers are doing this let cry it out method with this baby, who is a newborn. Like, hello, like you do that when the baby is like 6 months, not like a newborn baby that's just like in the world needing all the nourishment it can get. So it's very clear that like baby Noah is not in a good position to be in, and Mrs. Wheeler is like, you are a horrible person, you're not fit to be a mother, I'm gonna keep your baby. So it's very clear that like Serena is essentially become the Wheeler's handmaid, and that they're going to keep her baby if she doesn't do something about it. And then Lawrence eventually comes to see her and is very antagonistic, as Lawrence does, ultimately cautioning her and telling her she needs to go be with her baby and she needs to not fight it and she just needs to go along with it. And when she mentions the fact that they've turned her into their handmaid, when he says that line about, "Are you irony deficient?" I was crying. It was hysterical. Best line of the night. "Are you irony deficient?" Lawrence he knows how to kick you when you are down on the ground. And then finally, we have June, who goes to see her. But June goes to see her kind of in a moment of finally reconciling it to some degree. And I love a couple of things from the conversation when she calls Serena out for being a bad Christian. "I'm a better Christian than you. I turned the other cheek. I saved you. I am an adherent to the Bible way more than you." And then too, she gives her some very solid advice, which is you need to go be with your baby, and while you're there, you will plot your revenge. You will do everything I have done. You will become me, essentially. I suspect that while Serena can never be fully redeemed in the same way that Lawrence and Nick can never be fully redeemed, we are seeing Serena's redemption arc beginning in this moment when she finally takes June's advice, returns to the Wheeler so that she can nurse her baby, and hopefully take to heart everything that June says, which is plot your revenge. Like, smile on their face, do everything you're supposed to do, and plot their demise, just like I did. And there's a moment where Serena is skeptical, and June is like, "Look what happened to Fred. Look what happened to you." And it's like, yep, you got me on there. You got her there. I feel bad for Serena in the way of like understanding like the agony of being away from your kid. But at the same time, I don't feel bad for her. I certainly feel way more sympathy for her than Luke can feel. I digress. So let's go back into the house where June, sings to baby Nicole the song that she used to sing to Hannah, tells Nicole of this story of Hannah. I think this is going to be a very important moment because I suspect that things are going to go awry and it will be some time before they are reunited. And so this moment is going to become very pivotal in at least June's memory. Luke is also hearing all of this. I don't know that it's actually really softening his mind toward returning to Gilead so that they can have a hope of saving Hannah. He is basically like, why aren't we good enough? Why aren't Nicole and I good enough? And I don't understand. I do understand, but I don't understand because kind of like what Serena said, I mean, I don't fault him for trying to survive and live, but he also hasn't been an active agent against getting his wife back, getting his kid back. He's kind of been very passive, and that's not been the way that things are done. For most people who've been rescued from Gilead, it took action, and a lot of those people were rescued by June. Hate her, but she is the Mockingjay of this story. Love her or hate her, she's the Mockingjay of this story. And so June returns to Lawrence and it's like, look, I need you to stop Hannah from getting married off, right? There's a moment that if you watch that scene again and Lawrence is talking about his feelings of remorse and creating Gilead, but that also he saved the world, it just got out of his hand. It's a very God complex moment where we see this idea of like, he's the one who saved the world, and yes, it got away from him, but he can save it again. I suspect that is not the way that things are going to go. There's just too much hubris on his part, and that does not bode well usually for character development. At the same time, it felt like very allegorical because this idea of like, I created this one thing, it didn't go the way that I wanted to. I am now going to create this new thing and take certain people from it and try to start over with them. Sounds a little biblical. I'm just saying. And then when June returns, she gets this video of Hannah. We don't really know who has procured this video. I suspect that Nick has sent it. There's also a moment, I want to go back to this moment that Lawrence talks about training Nick and says like basically he's grooming him but not in a sexual way. And it makes me feel as though like Nick is really like more of like Lawrence's pit bull, like he does his dirty work for him. And I don't know if he's just being like a sneaky silent type, like he's going to be working in the background or in keeping his eyes peeled, or what's the dynamic there. But it feels very uncomfortable to me. Let me know down below in the comments if you have sensed the same thing, but I'm not liking it because it definitely seems like he's the one who's going to get his hands messy while Lawrence is like sticking back. But yeah, she tries to get him to like keep Hannah from getting married, and he's basically like, I can't, I don't have that kind of power. Gilead is going to Gilead. Again, I don't know if this is like just like a self-depreciating thing or what, but Lawrence definitely seems like he has way more power than he's letting up. The fact that they allowed him to kill Putnam, that he's creating this new Bethlehem, suggests that he has more power than perhaps he thinks. At the bare minimum, he could offer to marry Hannah and somehow get her into New Bethlehem, and maybe have to go to New Bethlehem to set things up and then have something happen to her, you know, something. He could get the wheels going, and he just seems too reticent to do that. We don't know where this video of Hannah comes from, but ultimately Luke gets it in the hands of Tuella, who also wants June to stay and be their little mascot, rah rah sis boom bah girl, but they use it to ping her location, and they say they're going to operate a raid on her school and rescue her. And just when June is seemingly leaning toward making the decision to go to New Bethlehem and possibly even abandoning Luke in order to do that, she gets the call from Tuello that they have located Hannah. They're going to go in and rescue her. It's such a beautiful moment. It reminded me, she's going grocery shopping, she's getting these apples, and it really reminded me of like the way that women used to grocery shop back in Gilead. It's a very, very beautiful moment. The light on them, the way that it's shot, her running through the streets, despite all of the chaos that's been from the outside world in this episode, it's just this very peaceful, serene moment. And then she gets back to the house where she tells Luke and Moira, and they celebrate, and it seems very joyous. And that is basically where the episode ends. We get taken to Hannah, where she's in the garden and she looks up into the sky, and we hear what sounds like planes overhead. At that moment, I kind of freaked out because I was like, is the episode done? That felt like a season finale. What's going on? And I started to search to see if there was a planned scheduled episode 9 and 10 like normal, or if there was only going to be 8 episodes and they had cut it short. It seems as though that's not the case. There are going to be 2 more episodes, but this felt very much, very climactic and very, very climatic and very much like an ending episode. But here are my final thoughts. I definitely don't think that the raid is going to be successful, which will ultimately result in June going to New Bethlehem. I think that this is how we get her back in Gilead, and I've been saying this all season, that ultimately she is going to, our POV character has to return back to Gilead to help bring it down. I definitely think that Serena is going to go on her redemptive arc and go up against the Wheelers. I don't know what's going on with the Wheelers. I'm very highly suspicious of their role in all of this and what kind of threat they're going to pose to our people. I don't think, and I hope that I'm wrong, I don't think Luke survives the season. I definitely think that Luke dies by the end of this season. We haven't had, other than Putnam, and Putnam doesn't really count, a major character death this season because Fred technically died last season. So I definitely feel as though that is something that's in the horizon, especially with all the contention between the two of them and him being unwilling to kind of sacrifice himself for his daughter. Just from a narrative perspective, you don't have your hero paired with someone who can't do that. Either they have to change and they have to be willing to sacrifice themselves, and don't, as John Foster, in his book, How to Read Literature Like a Professor, says, don't stand next to the hero. You stand next to the hero and you die. And so June is the hero. She can't die yet. So who is the closest person to her that could die and give us that emotional impact? I think it's Luke. I think Luke is going to die. I hope that I'm wrong, but guys, that's where I think we're going. And I think June is going to Gilead. And that's where we are. There is no promo. Or at least I think they just maybe are releasing the promo later on for this video, for the next episode. So we have 2 episodes left, guys. That is it. But here's what I need you to do. I need you to get down in the comments. Let me know what you thought of this night's episodes. What were your favorite moments, the highs, the lows? I definitely think Luke, the fight with Luke, look, it needed to be said. It was dirty, but it needed to be said. And he's just going to have to get a grip. Irony deficiency, I'm going to put that on a poster and hang it in my classroom. And, you know, just, I hope Serena can tough it out, you know, because turnabout is fair play. But let me know what you thought, and I will see you guys in the next video. Oh, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Toodles!